Hello, thanks for joining us today. Starting in 2025, within Vertex BD, we are now using the new concepts of zones and spaces. Let's take a look at these within this video. First, let's have a look at spaces within Vertex BD. Now within the Modeling tab and the Zone section, we now have the option to define spaces. Within here, we have some basic example spaces that are predefined and can be selected from. First, let's try out the predefined apartment space. Once selected, we can define our space area within our model's active window and also can provide the software height dimension measurements if required. Once those have been defined, Vertex will then open a window to enable you to define further properties for the space. Within here, you can define your own properties via right-clicking. For example, we can add demo property as shown. Let's continue by pressing OK. Here, you can edit our defined space. You can amend this via the grip points as you would expect to the defined object within Vertex BD, and you can even change the space's color with the drop down as shown here. With that done, we can switch on the layers and move this label, and you can see the apartment 1 space is detailed. Let's add in more spaces to our building. Now we have added spaces throughout our building. They have been assigned different colors, but these can still be changed as required. Here you can see the different spaces that we have defined, and each is highlighted as we select it. With all that completed, we can then go on to defining our zones. Within the Zones section of the Modeling tab, we can select the Define Zones option, which is below the Define Spaces option. BD will open a window where we can select the required zone we need, and there are a small number of predefined zones available here. In this example, we will utilize the fire compartment zone. We select our desired spaces and then press enter to confirm. Vertex BD then opens the Edit Zone Properties window. Within here, we can see the defined spaces and rooms included in the zone we have defined. Once we are happy with our selections, we press OK, and then we have our completed and defined zone. Let's do one other quickly with these two spaces here. As you can see, it's very easy to create and set up zones as necessary. So now, if we go back to our 3D viewer, as you can see via the model view, if we select either of our zones from the model browser, it will highlight the relative spaces that are a part of the selected zone. Let's make an IFC and see how our new zones and spaces translate over to the IFC view. First, we export our IFC files from Vertex BD. Once we have exported these, we head on over to Solibri Anywhere IFC viewer. Once opened, we can see within Solibri that our IFC files now include both our created zones and all of their associated spaces. These can be viewed individually and selected as required. Within the library user interface, you can create your own zones and spaces. You can customize these libraries as necessary. Here you can see we have our pre-existing default zones and spaces, but we can add to those with ease. As with all our other libraries in VD, you can right-click and copy to new custom library. By this process, you can create an entire new library of zones and spaces as desired. In this view, we will create a simple additional space called Spaces BD 2025. Once we have given it a name and selected OK within the next window, we can then customize our custom space itself. Selecting it will open the space properties where we can create our own description for our space or zone, the default color for the space or zone, transparency settings, etc. Once we are happy with this, we select OK, and our newly created customized space or zone is added to BD within our new library we created. Let's test this out and add a customized space to our building. Now when we go to add our space, we have our newly created library with our new space as an option to choose from. We can then select this and utilize it within our model as desired. As well as adding these in manually, we can also add them into our buildings by adding them by our building's walls. We select to add our newly created space, then select the Add by Walls option by selecting the option as shown here. Once we have done that, we define our desired properties and confirm. BD will then add our zone or space by the walls we selected. That concludes this video showcasing our new zones and spaces concept for Vertex BD 2025. Thanks for watching.